Beneil Dariush thinks Max Holloway could give Islam Makhachev problems. Makhachev, who recently set the record for the most successful UFC lightweight title defenses, continues to dominate the division. Initially expected to face Arman Tsarukyan at UFC 311, Islam instead defended his belt against Moicano after Arman was sidelined due to a back injury. Makhachev submitted Moicano in the first round, further cementing his reign. While many still see Tsarukyan as one of the toughest potential challengers for Makhachev, Dariush believes Holloway could also create problems for the champion. Speaking on SiriusXM Fight Nation's MMA Today, Dariush outlined why Holloway's unique skill set and style might make him a serious threat to Makhachev's dominance at 155 pounds. Quote, "You know who would be interesting is Max Holloway. I think Max Holloway could be an interesting fight for Makhachev because he's hard to hold. He has excellent cardio, and he throws a lot of volume, and I think these are things that could be difficult for Makhachev. Then interestingly enough, if you watch the fight with Merab Dvalishvili, he has excellent cardio, and he was able to do so much with that excellent cardio. I don't remember the last time I saw Holloway in the 4th and 5th round, and he's slowing down, so I think he has something similar." End quote. Holloway suffered the first knockout loss of his professional MMA career in his recent attempt to reclaim the UFC featherweight title. Max was defeated by Ilia Topuria in the 3rd round, with El Matador's boxing proving decisive. However, the question remains, would Holloway's striking pose the same level of threat against Islam Makhachev? Additionally, could he fend off Makhachev's relentless takedowns long enough to turn it into a competitive fight? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Dricus du Plessis issues a cold warning to Islam Makhachev after recent call-out. Dricus and Islam are two of the UFC's top pound-for-pound fighters. Makhachev recently defended his lightweight title at UFC 311, while du Plessis is gearing up for a highly anticipated rematch against Sean Strickland for the middleweight championship at UFC 312 next month. After quickly finishing Moicano, Makhachev finds himself running out of fresh challenges in the lightweight division. He has long teased a move to welterweight in pursuit of becoming a 2-division champion, something his mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov, never achieved. Islam even hinted at going a step further, suggesting the possibility of becoming a triple champ by capturing titles at welterweight and middleweight, an achievement no fighter in UFC history has accomplished. However, du Plessis isn't on board with that idea. In a recent interview with Fox Sports Australia, he addressed Makhachev's comments about challenging for the middleweight belt. DDP highlighted the difference between training with middleweights and competing as a champion, stating that while Makhachev may train with 185-pound fighters, there is only one true 185-pound world champion. He expressed confidence in his ability to overpower Islam in any situation. Du Plessis also acknowledged that Makhachev is a large lightweight, but emphasized the significant gap between their natural sizes, describing himself as a big middleweight and reinforcing the difference between the two. Quote, "He trains with 185ers in his gym, but there is only one world champion, so kudos to him, but it doesn't really matter because I'll overpower him in any situation. I know he walks around heavy, but I walk around heavy. He's a big lightweight, I'm a big middleweight." End quote. Do you think the pound-for-pound #1 fighter would have a chance against DDP in middleweight? Leave your comments below. Michael Bisping believes he has the ideal co-main event banger for Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. While the Jones-Aspinall fight is still under negotiation, UFC fans and analysts, including former middleweight champion Michael Bisping, are speculating about a potential megacard to complement what could be the most significant undisputed heavyweight title fight in years. Bisping has proposed a lightweight BMF rematch between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira as the ideal co-main event to the card. He believes that a clash between the title holder Holloway and the #2 ranked Oliveira would perfectly round out the card, especially on International Fight Week. Quote, "I, for one, sign off on this fight. I love Charles Oliveira. I love the fact that he wants to be active, and I love Max Holloway. He's an absolute legend of the sport. This rematch, International Fight Week, put it as the co-main event to Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Charles Do Bronx taking on Max Holloway for the BMF belt. My God, this one will be an absolute blockbuster." End quote. Charles and Max verbally agreed to rematch. Charles has expressed interest in a BMF showdown with Holloway, particularly if lightweight champion Makhachev is unavailable. Holloway responded to Oliveira's call-out, showing openness to the idea of a fight during International Fight Week. Aligning with Bisping's earlier suggestion, the two first faced off in 2015, but their fight ended abruptly due to Oliveira suffering an esophagus injury. A decade later, the potential rematch rematch is far more intriguing, with both fighters competing for UFC titles in their last 3 outings and continuing to cement their legacies as elite competitors. Alexander Volkanovski reveals an ideal time frame for his next UFC fight. After a tough end to 2023, things didn't improve much for the former UFC featherweight champion in 2024. Volk suffered a head kick knockout loss to lightweight champion Islam Makhachev, and then lost his featherweight title to Ilia Topuria in another brutal knockout. Now that he's had some time to recover, Volkanovski feels he has a better sense of when the right time to return to the Octagon would be. Speaking to Sky Sports, he was asked when he hopes to make his comeback. While Volk is pushing for a return in the spring, he admitted he's uncertain about the UFC's plans for him. Quote, "Like I said, nothing's completely locked in. I was talking about being ready for March-April. They don't have an exact date, but I would say in a couple of months, few months. So yeah, I think the April date does look good, but you never know." Volk's most recent fight was the title loss to Topuria in 2024. Many fans are pleased that the former champ has taken time off to recover from back-to-back knockout losses. While some have suggested that Volk should face Diego Lopes next, he has remained firm in his belief that his next fight should be for UFC gold. The chances of Alex winning a rematch with the champ don't look high based on their first fight. El Matador's knockout power was a decisive factor in their first bout, and Volkanovski's defense was caught off guard. Topuria has only improved since their first encounter, bringing a well-rounded game with pressure, power, and precision. Volkanovski will need to make significant adjustments, particularly in avoiding clean strikes, to change the outcome, given Topuria's rise and Volkanovski struggles with his defense. It's tough to see a rematch going much differently. In a recent appearance on a Georgian podcast, Ilia Topuria didn't hold back in tearing into Khabib Nurmagomedov. Despite having a tense relationship, Ilia had never outright disrespected Khabib until now. This time, Topuria went a step further, calling Khabib a coward and even comparing him to a woman. The explosive comments stirred up significant controversy in Georgian media. The exclusive translation of his remarks into English, provided by us at MMA Psycho, only added fuel to the fire. The conversation began with the hosts discussing how Khabib never made the jump to welterweight, speculating that he wouldn't have been able to beat Kamaru Usman at the time. They also mentioned that Khabib doesn't like taking risks. Ilia stayed quiet initially, but as the discussion progressed, he opened up. Ilia revealed that he used to respect him and saw him as a man of his word, a traditional figure. Initially, Khabib announced his retirement, stating he wouldn't return for anything. However, when offered $100 million, Nurmagomedov agreed to come back, which led Ilia to lose respect for him. El Matador explained that when he retired, he was in the midst of a weight cut, which influenced his decision. But once the fight was over and Khabib returned to his normal routine, Ilia believes he'd likely be open to continuing.
He doesn't like taking risks, right? Yeah, he knew that he wouldn't be able to ragdoll Usman like he did everyone else. He never liked taking risks, and he didn't want to move up to 170, and probably that's why.
I had a different impression on Khabib in the past. I respected him and thought he was a man of his word, you know? Thought he was a traditional man. At first, he said he had retired and wouldn't come back for anything. But then he said if they offered him $100 million, he would agree to return. Like a coward, you know? That's when I lost respect for him. I'll tell you what it is. When Khabib announced his retirement, he was in the midst of a weight cut, which is why he wanted to retire. But once the fight was over and he was back to his normal routine, he'd probably be open to continuing. It's like asking a woman right after giving birth if she wants another child. She might say no in the moment, but after some time, she might be open to the idea. Khabib always says that he takes his opponents into deep oceans and drowns them. I grew up in those oceans. With all the experience I have, I am sure I would drown him in those deep oceans today. Ilia never mentioned Khabib's father, who was the actual reason behind Khabib's retirement. The passing of Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov played a pivotal role in Khabib's decision to step away from the sport, but Ilia did not address this aspect in his comments. That's it for today from MMA Psycho. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for daily MMA news.